Hey guys, Yankee here, and today I'm going to be giving my thoughts on Tenchi Muyo OVA 1, Episode 1. Before I talk about the actual episode, I'm going to sort of talk about my plans for these videos and what I plan to do with the Tenchi franchise as a whole on this channel. I did OVA 5 as it was coming out. What was that? Last year, and so that'd be 2021, 2020, I think. So I did that as it was coming out, and I had a lot of fun with that, and I've been wanting to go back and cover some of the other stuff. And so my plan right now is to focus on the OVAs. I want to do them one episode at a time because, one, that's how I did OVA 5, and two, it allows me to sort of stretch these videos out a little bit longer. And then once I'm done with the OVAs, which, I want to get the OVAs done before an OVA 6 happens, if an OVA 6 happens. And then after that, I'm going to go back and sort of do other anime that some I've seen, some I haven't, like Tenchi Universe. I've seen half of that. I'd like to watch the whole thing and do videos on it. And so I really plan on focusing on just on stuff that's easily available. So the anime, it's easy to find with subtitles and stuff. The true Tenchi Muyo novels that 7C released, I have all of them and I've only read one. I'm not going to touch fan translations the GXP novel translations. And eventually, I hope to have covered pretty much everything that I can. And I'm going to be starting with OVA 1, obviously. So let's get into it. So this episode opens with our main character Tenchi's grandfather sort of walking up, calling for him, and then we see Tenchi rummaging around this little building looking for something. What is he looking for? Well, his grandfather comes in, catches him looking, and he pulls out some keys from... his grandfather pulls out some keys from his pocket, and that's what Tenchi's looking for. He's looking for keys that sort of unlock a fence in a cave that goes to a part of his grandfather's shrine, which is where we're at, that he's never been to and wants to see what it is. And the way that information is sort of given to us is really well done, I think. This episode is the exact opposite of what later OVAs become, where exposition is given very well, in my opinion. It's not just two people sitting in a room talking. Tenchi's looking for something. What is he looking for? Oh, his grandfather comes in and explains what he's looking for. Tenchi eventually gets the keys. Eventually. It's 2 minutes into the show. He gets the keys, goes to the area, we see him look at the fence, and then we get a flashback to him as a kid looking at the fence, wanting to know what's in there. So we establish that this isn't a new thing. This is something he's been interested in for a long time. And then his grandfather shows up, asks him what he's doing, and then explains why it's locked. Well, there's a demon locked down there. Hundreds of years ago, our ancestor battled the demon, sealed it away here. That's why you can't go down there. Perfect. And there's really cool visuals during this, where I like how the demon, as it's shown in the story, when... I wish I remember what Tenchi's grandfather's name was. I don't. While he's explaining it, we see visuals of sort of what the demon looks like, and it has characteristics of what she actually ends up looking like later on when we see her, but it's like a storybook, right? Like a tale where everything's been exaggerated. The demon's massive, and the sword that the Tenchi's ancestor used to slay this demon looks completely different than it ends up looking. I just thought that was really neat, because I feel like in other shows, they just would have used the designs that they're actually going to use for the show. But for this brief little flashback scene, they just do entirely new designs that we barely see. And so after that flashback, we got back to the present, where we see the gate, and Tenchi is already in there. He finds a little room, he finds the sword, and then he opens up a secret passage, which, obviously, he goes into. And what do we see is, we see a room with a little light in the center, and the floor isn't flat. There's a lot of like gaps in it, like little 4 or 5 inch gaps, full of water. Right? I don't know how to describe it because it's not like cracks. It's like a design, right? I'll have a screenshot of it here in the video somewhere. But it looks really cool. But one thing I want to point out about this is how good the animation was back then. This is what Tenchi looked like when it had an animation budget. So Tenchi gets to this room, and there's all these little waterways, right? And as he's walking, you see him deliberately step in spots that aren't water. And then at the very end, he sort of half steps, whereas, if you step there, your heel would go into the water. And I think another anime, his foot would have just been flat and it would have not gone in. But no, you see his foot bend in the animation, so his heel is in the water part, and then his toes are up on the dry part, and it just looks really good. The animation in this episode is great, and a bit of personal preference, which I know some people prefer what new anime looks like. I think old cell animation just is my preference. I think it's got I don't know, texture. I don't know how to describe it. New digitally colored anime just looks kind of flat. So again, that's just preference, but I think this episode looks really great. And so we see a corpse in the middle of this room with a mask and long hair, and it wakes up and it grabs Tenchi, and he freaks out and he gets out of there, seals the secret room, and then we cut to him no longer there at his grandfather's shrine, and now he's at school. And again, the way exposition is done in this episode really shows how poorly it is done in later OVAs, even though I like those. We get, he gets to school and his friend shows up, and immediately there's just a conversation about, oh, how was your summer? Oh, I was at my grandfather's, every year doing work around the shrine. Cool. We just established that. We didn't need two people, a 10-minute conversation explaining why Tenchi goes to his grandfather's shrine every summer. It's just I do. I go there every year, I help. Now I'm back, now I'm at school. What happens next? He goes up on the roof, falls asleep, wakes up at night. And he wakes up to a cat, which was at the shrine, which I think is his grandfather's cat. I should say this. I should have said this earlier. I'm going to try not to talk about sort of outside information in these videos. I want to just talk about the episodes as they are. I know in the 100 questions or 101 questions book, they answer what was up with the cat. But in this, it's just, oh, here's the cat. Oh, it disappears. And then we see the demon from before, now basically fully healed. It's no longer mummified. It is just a human woman, or not a human woman, because she doesn't have human ears. But it's a woman, and she is here to get revenge. And they do a really good job of establishing Ryoko, who I don't think they say her name in the episode, but Ryoko the demon is just sort of playing with Tenchi, and she obviously knows more about him than she's letting him know or letting us know, because she's calling him by his name even though she shouldn't know what it is. They had one interaction in the cave and then here at school where she followed him. And so we get this chase scene where she's chasing him around his school, blowing stuff up. It's late, nobody's here. Again, great animation, and she's clearly just messing with him, playing with him. We get a great, oh, look, what is that? And then she's looking oh, what is it? What are you pointing at? That gag is dumb, but I love it every time, especially when it works. I don't know why, but it always makes me laugh. And so yeah, it's just, she's chasing him, this is a great way to sort of show off what she can do, all of her powers. We see her create a light sword. It's basically a lightsaber, but without a handle. It looks really great. I don't know if I talked about this in my other Tenchi videos or whatever, but I really like the way they do Ryoko's like light swords, where it's just a solid beam that when she grabs it, like it sort of disappears. So there's a spot for her hand, but like the beam sort of stops and like I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I think it looks really cool. So they chase him around for a little bit. Like she gets blown up. Spends a lot of time basically cleaning herself up. This whole thing is like there's one moment like when they first start chasing him. When Ryoko first starts chasing Tenchi, it seems a bit more serious. But then there's a moment where it's clearly like the music really helps let you know that like okay, she's just screwing around. I think it's the part where we first like Tenchi's hiding in a room, and then he looks over, and then there she is, like half phased through the wall, and then you see her come through. Again, this episode is a lot of good setup, like explaining why everything happens really well. This whole segment is basically just establishing what Ryoko can do and how powerful she is, and also establishes that she's not really there to kill him, despite saying that. She's just playing with him. Eventually, the school gets destroyed, and then Tenchi gets out of there. Ryoko leaves, Tenchi goes home, Ryoko's in his bed, and that's the end. This is such a great first episode. It's got a lot of like you're like intrigue. You're wondering what's happening. Who is Ryoko? She said she'd been sealed for 500 years. How is she still alive? Why? What is she going to do now? Like, this is such a strong start. And I forgot how much I really loved this show. Like, I enjoy the new OVAs. A lot of people don't enjoy them. I enjoy them for what they are, even though they are basically just exposition dumps. Though OVA 5 was a lot better than OVA 4. Man, I haven't watched OVA 1 in a long time, and watching this episode, like, I'm really excited to get back into watching it because I forgot just how much I loved it. So yeah, great episode. Animation was good. The way information was doled out to us was good. The way our characters were established is good. I am really excited to keep making my way through this. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.